Hello, my name is Feuz, Livestock Marketing Specialist and Area Educator for the University of Wyoming Extension out here in western Wyoming. I wanted to talk to you today about some drought management principles. So, our Wyoming producers are quite used to managing in dry weather conditions, and they make a lot of decisions to help them manage through those dry summers. So some of the decisions that our producers make would maybe be to stock at a little lower rate than they have AUMs available. They may also decide to save and store a little hay and not feed it all out each year, or produce a little more than they need. They may also cull a little heavier in those summers where it's dry, and maybe even sell off their yearlings earlier, or even consider weaning earlier. So there's lots of decisions that producers can make when we have those dry summers. But what do we do when those dry summers turn into an honest drought? Well, there are no one-stop, one-shop-fits-all solutions for drought management. Just like everything else we do in ranching, it's really an individual decision. And the reason that is each ranch is going to have some different resources. You know, one ranch may have an area that in wetter years they can't get in and graze, but in drier years they can actually get in and utilize. Or another ranch may have saved a little more hay than the other. Or we might have a ranch that sold all of their hay, trying to make a little extra money this last year, and so they'll be really short on hay this year. So the decision you make as you face drought is really an individual decision, and a decision that you need to enter in your own numbers to really understand what to do. So what I want to talk to you about is not what the right thing to do is, but what the right tool to use is. So a partial budget is a great tool for ranchers to use to look at decisions like, what do I do in terms of drought? So the partial budget is a simple tool that just asks ranchers 4 simple questions. First question it asks is, what costs are going to be increased as a result of the decision you make? The second question it asks is, what income is going to be increased as a result of the decision you make? The third question that it asks is, what income will be reduced as a result of the decision you make? And the fourth question is, what costs will be reduced as a result of the decisions you make? So answering those 4 simple questions in an orderly fashion can provide producers with a tool to be able to make decisions that are going to really make sense for their own operation and help them through drought management. Let's head back to the office and put some numbers together and look at some assumptions and see what we come up with as an example for this summer's drought. Alright, we're back here at the office. Let's go through a scenario first, and then we'll get out the partial budget and take a look and see if we can help us make some decisions for the drought this year. So let's look at this scenario first. It's a scenario here in western Wyoming where we have 300 mother cows, and on a regular year we need about 2 tons of hay per cow per year to feed that cow, so about 600 tons of hay. And on a normal year we produce about 650 tons total, so we have about a 50-ton surplus. This year, due to the drought, what we're seeing is about 3 months potential grazing being reduced. So that's going to add about another 1.25 ton of hay per cow for our need for hay this year. The other impact that we're seeing with this drought is a reduction in haying production. And so production is going to be down to about 60% of normal this year on our hay crop. So what that results in is total hay that we're going to have available to us this year is 50 ton left over from last year, plus the 400 ton we're going to harvest this summer. It's going to give us 450 ton of hay. So based on these hay numbers and our cow requirements, that's really only enough hay for 140 cows. So we've got 300 cows now. We have enough hay for 140 cows, so we have to decide what we're going to do with this drought. You know, a do-nothing strategy would mean that we're going to have to sell 160 cows because we don't have the hay or the grazing for those cows. So we're going to take a look at a partial budget and see the difference between just selling those 160 cows versus buying hay and keeping all 300 cows. All right, let's go to the partial budget now. All right, so we're back to our example here. Remember, we're only going to produce 450 ton of hay this year, or only have available 450 ton of hay this year because of the drought. And now, instead of 2 ton per cow per year, because of the drought and our reduced grazing, we're going to be up to 3¼ ton per cow per year that we're going to need. So we really only have enough hay on hand for 140 cows. So the decision is, do we sell 160 cows and be happy with the hay we have on hand, or do we buy hay? And I realize, just like many things we do in ranching, it's not an all or nothing scenario. It might be wise to call a little more deeper and buy a little hay versus an all or nothing. But we're going to look at the all or nothing approach here with the partial budget. But you can certainly calculate out either approach with this partial budget tool. So when we look at this partial budget first, we want to look at our increased cost. So each time you make a decision on a ranch, you're going to have these 4 different consequences of your decision. So the first one we want to look at is this increased cost. Because of our decision not to sell the 160 cows but buy hay, we are going to have an increased cost of hay. The other increased cost we're going to have is because we decided not to sell those 160 cows, we're going to have an annual cow cost on those 160 cows. If we look down here at the reduced revenues, if we had decided to sell the 160 cows, we would have gotten revenue on those cold pairs, so we would have received the revenue for the 160 cold pairs. On the other side, we're going to see an increase in revenue because we're going to have 160 times 90% calf crop calves to sell this fall and the ensuing fall because we kept those cows and we decided to buy hay. Another thing that we're going to do because we've kept the cows and decided to buy hay is that we're not going to have to buy back bred cows at some later date to replace these pairs that we sold. So these are the consequences that you're going to see by making the decision to buy hay versus selling cows. Now I hesitate always to put in the actual numbers here because truly the numbers I put in are not going to make any sense for your operation until you put your own numbers and use your real numbers in this analysis. I will put some numbers in to show you how it looks, and we'll go through and come up with a bottom line. But in order for this to be meaningful for your ranch, you need to spend some time and put your own numbers in this analysis to really come up with it. So we're going to go ahead now and we'll get this partial budget set up and put the actual numbers in. Okay, we've got the numbers here in our partial budget. I want to remind you on this strategy, we're looking at a 4-year approach. So we're thinking that if we sell those cows, or if we sell the pairs, it would take us 4 years to buy back the bred cows that we need. 4 years to get back into the market, given current market prices. So this is the scenario that I went through. Our increased costs are going to be the hay. It's going to be the hay at 3¼ tons for the 160 cows we decided not to sell. That means we need 520 ton of hay. I put it in at $200 a ton, so that's $104,000 more in hay costs that we have. In our annual cow costs, we'll have these annual cow costs because we decided again not to sell those 160 cows. So we'll have 4 years of annual cow costs increased times the 160 cows gives us 640 total times the $650 per cow per year equals $416,000 in increased annual cow costs over the next 4 years because we decided not to sell. On the reduced income side, again, because we decided not to sell those pairs, instead we're buying hay, we're not going to sell the pairs at 160 pairs times $1,400 or $224,000. So our total increased cost and reduced income is $744,000. Remember, on these cold pairs, you're usually calling off your bottom end, so don't expect to get the market high. In fact, when you're calling off your bottom end, you're probably not going to get average market price either. You're going to be a little below. All right, let's move over onto the revenue side. So Because we made that decision to buy hay, we actually have those 160 calves to sell now. Well, actually, we have 160 calves times a 90% calf crop, times 550 pounds per calf, times the 4 years, times $1.75 per pound equals $554 or $554,400 more that will be increasing our revenue by buying this hay. The other category over here is a reduced cost. Because we decide to buy the hay and not sell those cows, we don't have to buy back bred cows in 4 years. So this is buying back the bred cows, 160 cows again, at $1,200 a cow, or $192,000. So our total increased revenue and reduced cost is $746,400 to give us a bottom line net gain over the 4 years of $2,400. So essentially, we're at break even. So does that mean we do it or we don't? Well, definitely, you can't make that decision without putting your own numbers in there and working through. But even if you're at that break-even number, there might be some value to you in not having to restock and keeping your genetics so you're not having to restock with other genetics. It's a decision that you have to make on your own. This is just a tool to help you. All right, now that we've got the process down, and you know that you need to put some of your own numbers in there, a great website to go out and look at markets and figure out what's going on and help you with your numbers is www.cattlemarketanalysis.org. Additionally, for those of you who like to use the computer more than just penciling it out, I've developed an online tool to do the partial budgeting, and it actually gives you some more tools available if you go out there and take a look at it. But those tools are available if you click on the Cowboy Calculators option of this cattlemarketanalysis.org website and then select down towards the bottom partial budgeting. On that partial budgeting option, I've got an online tool that you can go through and calculate out your partial budget. It also gives you some additional information, plus a fact sheet that you can read to get additional information on terms of how you would use this in making everyday decisions on your ranch, whether it's drought or not. Finally, if you need to get a hold of me, you want help with your numbers, give me a call at 307-783-0570 or email me at bmfeuz, F-E-U-Z, @uwyo.edu. Again, this is Bridger Feuz, Livestock Marketing Specialist, Area Educator with the University of Wyoming. Thanks for listening to today's report.